Welcome to Teaching with Kaltura Virtual Classroom. My name's Jeanette Oliveira. I'm the Faculty Development Coordinator, and I'll be your guide today to help you navigate the online virtual environment. I'm going to cover briefly the learning outcomes and give you access as well to a set of slides that will really be handy to help your students feel comfortable navigating that first class online. So today you're going to discover how Kaltura Virtual Classroom can be used for teaching and learning. I'm going to expose you as well to a number of different tools and their functionalities, everything ranging from breakout rooms, videos, sharing files, whiteboard applications, and recording, and so much more within this platform. So when you bring your students on for the first time, walk them through the next few slides. It'll just help them make them feel comfortable for their online environment experience. So the first thing you're going to want to do is test and make sure that your video and your audio is working correctly. So to do that, simply click on the settings button. Here you'll arrive within the settings page. Click on the webcam you would like to use, as well as your mic. Once you select your mic, the screen bar will appear to indicate that your mic is working and that your students will be able to hear you. For your students, once they arrive, they can click on their microphone icon to turn on their mic if they would like to speak. In terms of best practices in an online environment, it's recommended here that you keep your mic muted when you are not speaking. This will just help to keep the audio crystal clear. To do that, same process, click on your mic. You'll see a little red diagonal button appear here. That'll indicate that your mic is muted. The webcam you'll click on, and what will essentially happen is you'll come, if you wish to, you will come to the floor and your camera will be visible for yourself and for your students. Something that your students are going to have access to, as well as yourself, is an advanced feature called the on-demand course. The on-demand course is a place where you can share your files with your students for your synchronous class. To access the on-demand course, which I'll cover in more detail, you simply click on the three buttons here, and a drop-down option will become available for your students where they can click on demand. That'll launch them into the place where you have shared or uploaded any files with them if you choose to use this. Your students will also have access to a number of different communications tools. They can use the chat. So with the chat, you'll want to suggest that they can use this to communicate with each other if they have in the online environment. However, to help filter through chat, because our students do text very fast, you may want to recommend to your students that they use the Q&A button. The Q&A button will essentially alert you to questions that are relevant about the core content. So if they've got questions about the content, they should be using the Q&A button. This button will turn red, and then you can address the question in the class. Just helps to filter out the chat, which can be heavy. So another option here, which your students won't see, but you will see if you are co-facilitating, is the moderator chat. So if you need to communicate privately or you want to communicate privately with your co-teacher, you can click on that and type in the chat question will only go to them. Another option is to use your microphone. So students can use their microphone at any time. Just remember that they need to mute their mic when they're not speaking. An option that will also be available for your students is to raise their hand. So this will appear on their chat right next to the Q&A button. They can raise their hand, and what will happen is they'll come to the top of the participants list, so you'll be able to address their question. In terms of interconnectivity, there are some tips for yourself and your students. Number one is to really make sure that you have reliable Wi-Fi. Also, you can move as close as possible to your Wi-Fi device. This is going to help improve the performance for interconnectivity. If possible, try to avoid sharing your router or network and hotspots with others in the household, just because it will draw on the bandwidth. Another thing you can do is to really keep your browsers, only the browsers that you need to have for your class, open. Otherwise, close everything else. That'll improve interconnectivity as well. And then finally, make sure to plug in your computer. Your computer might consume a high CPU because the software runs on the computer's camera and microphone. So really, the battery on your computer can run out faster. So you'll want to make sure that you're plugging in for the best optimal experience. Okay, so those are a quick few slides that you can help navigate for your students. Something that you may want to consider here in terms of online environment, I get asked questions a lot. How do I build an online community within a virtual platform? So getting your students to introduce themselves or doing an icebreaker activity within the online environment is going to be a really good activity for getting started. It just helps them to make them feel comfortable. They can share some aspect about the course that they're interested in. I'm sure you can probably come up with something that's way more creative, but it will be helpful for them to start feeling comfortable to express themselves in the online course and get to know their colleagues as well. So introductions is a great way to do that. So what is Kaltura Virtual Classroom? Kaltura Virtual Classroom is a video conferencing web conferencing tool. It allows for video, voice, text, chat, presentations, whiteboards, and so much more. Participants can join via computer. However, our students should be coming in through Canvas, and I'll explain why briefly in just a moment. There's no additional software required for Kaltura Virtual Classroom. So you can use this primarily to use for distance classes, virtual office hours. You can bring in guests, and I'll walk you through as well if you've got guest speakers. How do you do that? Okay, so the first thing that's very important is I'm going to show you how you get access to, or where you would go to get access to your Kaltura Virtual Classroom. So you're going to want to log into Canvas as learn.ontariotech.ca. And once you log in, here you'll select the course that you want to have access to. So go to one of your courses. And this will be the same way for your students. They'll need to access Kaltura Virtual Classroom following this same process. So within your Kaltura Virtual Classroom, you're going to look for your media gallery. Okay? And the media gallery is where you will click Start Meeting. So once you click, this is actually a view of what your students will see. You'll see Start Meeting, they'll see Join Meeting. So once you click this button where it says Start Meeting, it will launch you into your Kaltura virtual platform. So that's how you access it. Also, all your videos that you create will be located here in this platform. And I'll show you in a little bit just how to record as well in terms of, because that is a capability within this platform. Okay, so now that you know how to access it, the next step and the most important step for security is to put a password on your classroom. So to do that, you're going to click on the invite button. You'll see the link for your classroom, and this is where if you have guest speakers, you can share this link with them. But what I would like you to do is to put a required password on here and secure your classroom. This way, you won't have random guest people coming in because your classroom will be locked and require a password. So no one can enter your classroom that shouldn't be in your classroom. And your students will always should be coming in through Canvas. So to secure that and to make sure that they're coming in through Canvas, you need to put that password on there. Okay, so that will avoid any situations with random people showing up that shouldn't have access. So make sure you save that. Once you do that, your classroom will be secure. All right. You're going to have access to two different modes. The first one is the virtual classroom mode. So here it's an interactive mode. By default, their cameras will turn on, or not cameras won't turn on. By default, there will be an option. The first 25 people that arrive will be able to live themselves. Living themselves is a button here. That means that they can turn on their camera and their mic. Okay, so that's key for an interactive class. So up to the first 25 people within the online environment will be able to turn on their camera. Okay, with that, you can have up to 100 users. For webinar mode, you have up to 250 users. You will still have access to all of the features and functionalities. The key difference is that you can choose which 25 people can turn on their camera. With interactive mode, remember, it takes the first 25 people that arrive in, they have access to turn it on. So if your class is really 25 and over, you will want to put it in webinar mode so that you can give choice here to the students that want to turn on their camera and their web mode. And they can do that by indicating or raising their hand if they'd like to have that option. The maximum amount of cameras that at any one time can be turned on is 25. 25 cameras is a lot of cameras. So it's a good practice in terms of what Kaltura has installed with a limitation. This way you won't be running a lot of bandwidth within the platform. Bandwidth is like a highway. It only has so many lanes. So if you do notice any issues with bandwidth, you can unlive your students and just keep your camera going, and this will help to improve the performance within Classroom. I'll cover a few more tips on that as well. So those are the two modes. So if you want to select or you want to know how to access the different modes, it's in the same button here, the settings option. So you'll click on that and scroll down, and here's where you can select the virtual mode or the webinar mode. So click the mode that you would like to use and then hit close. All right, so within the platform, there are options to give students moderator access if you choose to do that. Moderator access is giving, you will have that by default when you arrive in the classroom because you're assigned as the instructor in the course, or the TA designer, you will have access to that. Essentially, that gives you access to the full platform tools that you're gonna see here today. You'll be able to share your screen, you'll be able to load videos, files, record, and so much more. With the participant view, or the participants, it's more of a limited privilege. So here they can see, they can hear, and they can type in the chat. If you wanted to give students more privileges than that, you can give them the option to promote them to moderator. This will give them the exact same capability that you would have. So for example, if you have students who maybe are presenting, you want them to be able to upload files, or you want them to be able to navigate and share or record or anything like that, they will be able to do that. If you click on their name in the participants list, you'll see this little drop-down button here. You can give them, promote them to moderator. So that will give them that access as a full moderator to be able to navigate the online environment. There's also some optional settings here as well. So maybe you just need them to share their screen, or you want to give them the capability to draw on the whiteboard. You can do that. So you can pick which options you want to enable for that particular student. Okay. So I mentioned how to get access already to the audio setup. I just wanted to reinforce this is very important to do for the very first class or every class, to test to make sure that it is working and that the students can see and hear you. That's going to be essential to or not essential, but it's important just so that you're getting that set up in advance of your class starting. Okay, so I know that you know how to access your camera and turn on your camera. The one thing I want to stress is it's really important for your camera to be on in a virtual environment if you're instructing, because without it, it can seem like a void. Students will feel like you're just talking into outer space, and encouraging as well, where possible, your students to have their cameras on so that it becomes a more interactive classroom. You can see their face, they can connect with you. It's that human connection to be able to see people that is going to sustain them long term for your course and keep them connected to you. So I do suggest at the very minimum that you have your camera on. However, If you run into a scenario where you're starting to see your screen slow down now, you're starting to see it buffer, what you can do essentially is turn off or ask the students to turn off their camera, or you can turn it off. This will help to improve the bandwidth. Remember, I said bandwidth is like a highway. It's only got so many lanes. And because we don't know what fall is going to be like, you can quickly adjust by just turning off the cameras, and you keep your camera on, keep going. Okay, so that's the one tip if you can in terms of camera. The other option, if you can as well, is try to minimize distractions. You may have some students in your class that have accessibility requirements, so minimizing distractions just helps to keep them focused in the online platform. Obviously, it may not be possible all the time because we are working remotely with kids, and but if you can, do try to minimize it. All right, now we're getting to some of the options that you're going to have available within this platform. The first thing that you have access to is the YouTube. So if you're using YouTube videos, they play within the platform really nicely. So you can click Tools, click YouTube, search your YouTube. I just put Ontario Tech in here and hit enter. And then you'll be able to find the YouTube video that you want to use. So once you have your YouTube video that you've selected, add it to the playlist. Okay, and you'll see here, you won't hear audio right now, but essentially you can see how nicely it plays. Your students will hear the audio, you'll hear the audio, you're just not hearing it in my video. Once you see that YouTube video come up for your students and play it, they'll be able to hear it. So just reinforcing that. Another great tool feature that's available is the whiteboards. This is one of the most advanced whiteboards, and you can clear the whiteboards if you need to as well. That's available in digital platform. You can draw on here. So some of you who are doing formulas, it's really handy. You can see, you can choose different colors. You can take pictures if you really wanted to. So actually that's not a great picture, but you get the idea. You can choose different grids here if you want. It'll give you a lot of different choice. You can have up to 50 different whiteboards. So it's really handy as well. Students can collaborate here if they want to type in the text. It's a way to draw them in as well. So really handy in terms of getting their engagement, getting them to collaborate as well in the online platform. Okay, so another option that you'll have available is desktop share. So desktop share, you can, if you have, let's say, other tools that you want to showcase, or maybe you're using OneNote or a different application that you need to share, you can do that. So desktop share, you just click on Tools, click on Desktop, select the browser or application that you want to share, click Share, and then your students will be able to see. So it won't look like this, but they'll be able to see your camera once, or be able to see what you're sharing on your screen once you select the file, select the application. All right. The other thing that is really great about this is you can upload your files in advance. So if you've got your PowerPoints and your PDFs or pictures or whatever that you want to share, you simply click on Files, locate the file, okay, and then you add your file to the platform. It will load up here. If you've got a very large file, it might take a few minutes to upload. Mine didn't take too long. It usually takes about a minute or two just to upload. So this is something you can prepare in advance. I know a lot of people like to get organized and have everything set up. So you can upload all your files in advance of your class. It will be here. And then when you're ready to, you can add your file to the playlist. A great thing about this, if you are really wanting to organize, have everything prepped in advance, you can add all your files to your playlist in advance of your class and have it ready to go. So if you're launching a quiz, you're launching a YouTube video, you've got files, you want to navigate back and forth, it will do that for you. Okay, and I will also highlight as well Maybe you might have caught this. One of the great things about this, if you've got the PowerPoint up and you flip to a different application, let's say you flip to the YouTube and you're done with that, it remembers where you last left off on your slide. So you're not having to go and navigate back and say, oh, where was I on that slide? It by default remembers it for you. So it's pretty robust in terms of what it can do. Okay, so we're getting to the slides application. We've covered the share. What I'm going to walk you through now is the on-demand course. Okay, so to access your on-demand course, you're going to click on the three buttons here. Click on On-Demand. And essentially what this is going to do is give you that capability if you want to add files or folders. You can add a folder if you want to be organized, if you're doing it like lecture 1, lecture 2, or anything like that. So add the, I just call them weekly folders. So let's say we're on week 6 here. You hit enter, okay? Then you can find the content that you want to access here from the playlist, or you can search it and add the file. So if you have a file that's already available, maybe you want to share your slides with your students, just add and close. You'll now see that your file is there. A great thing as well is if you want to enable a capability for your students to download the file, you simply enable it and then they'll be able to download the file. Some of you may be running breakout rooms, breakout sessions with your class. So you can organize this. So let's say you've got an activity that you were relevant. They're working on scenarios and you want them to work on a particular scenario. They can go to breakout room 1 folder, find the specific file, find the scenario that they're supposed to be working on, and see what they're, and be able to navigate. So it's, if you have a PowerPoint, it'll open up a PowerPoint and they'll be able to find the information that they're supposed to be working on. So again, I recommend for the on-demand course that you're really only using this for content that you're teaching with for that particular lecture. This isn't something you want to use for all your files. So if you've got tons of resources for students, rather you should be uploading that to Canvas where they can access it on their time. This is meant to be using live in your class, okay? So keep that distinction in mind for when you want to use the on-demand course. All right. Another feature that's available is the notes option if you wish to use that. So maybe you want to prepare some advanced features in class for them. You're going to give them some notes to prepare, or just want a reminder that there's assignments, due dates, or stuff like that. You can type that in the notes and then broadcast it when you're ready. So it's just something that's available for yourself and your students. Okay, so a great feature for this tool is quizzes. Quizzes are, give yourself a way to engage with your students, and it provides that flexibility. So maybe you're going to give them choice in the class, or you want to see where they're at to gain insight and understanding. It's a great way for engagement. So to launch a quiz, you would click on Tools, click on Quiz. You can create your quiz here. Click the little plus button. And then here you can enter the name of the quiz. I'm just going to put quiz 6, enter, and then enter in the questions. So if you've got multiple choice questions, you can enter them here and you can choose how many options. So if you were, I'm just going to put test in here so you can see what it looks like. Sorry about that. It's because I'm clicking enter too many times. Okay, so let's go back here, click the button, click test again, enter your answers. So you would be doing this with your multiple choice. With the multiple choice option, select the correct answer. You can also then, if you want to create another question, have that capability to have multiple questions in there. And then if you wanted, there's also other options. You can use multiple choice or multiple answer. The other option that's available is open question. However, open question, with that, you won't show you the aggregated data. You can access the aggregated data in the session stats, which I'll walk you through in a bit where to access that information. Okay, so let's say you've created your quiz now. Okay, so you're going to come back to tools, go to quizzes, find your quiz, and add it to the playlist. Once you find your quiz here, you can turn it on for your students, okay? And you have the choice of when you want to end the quiz. So your students will see the option to select here. You're seeing what the instructor sees. They won't see the results of the quiz. If you're trying to use this as a polling device, you would have to take a screenshot and share this with them. But if you're using it as a quiz, they'll see the answer, whether they got it correct or not. So it's just a different way. It's not designed as a poll, but if you wanted to use it as a poll, you could do that. All right, so that's how you use the quizzes. It's another great feature to engage with them. And once they do select a question, you'll see the percentile of what it was that selected. So let's just say if you've got 80% of them have got it wrong, you may want to reinforce here a little bit more about what they're missing or not getting the idea. So, or you could provide additional resources after. It's a great way to engage them that way. All right, so once you're done with that, you can end quiz. It will give you the results and you'll be able to see that. They won't see that. It'll just show them what they scored and it'll show them whether they got it right or wrong. So I'm going to close this now. Bring back up my slides. Okay, so for your students, in terms of the on-demand course, let's make sure I got it here. I did cover what that looked like for you, and I covered the notes, the quizzes, and now we're going to talk about attendance and session stats. So the attendance and the session stats are a way, if you need to track information, you can do that. So you would go to smartneuro.com. The first process though is you really do have to have first launch your Kaltura Virtual Classroom, because what happens is once you've launched your Kaltura Classroom, it's going to catch the cache. So open your classroom first and then go to the smartneuro.com. Okay, so what does smartneuro.com look like? Just going to showcase it here. So this is what you'll see. You'll see your courses available that you have access to. You can go to the session stats information, and this is where you'll see all of the sessions that you have had and the times and the dates that they were available. So let's say you need to find data on a particular one. Click on the session stat. Here you'll be able to see the time that they joined, the time that they left, and the duration. And you can export this if you need to. There's an export feature. The chat history here, if you need to see the chat, and you'll be able to see who typed in what in the chat. So this is really handy in case you run into a scenario where inappropriate behavior maybe happened and you need to document it or showcase it, you can export it here. Or as well, I like to check the chat just to see if there's anything I missed. Maybe there was questions that came up. It kind of gives you a good insight so you can cover it for your next class, which is handy if you want to reinforce content that maybe is not clear to your students. Okay, so that's where you access your session stats information. You also have the option as well to record in this platform. So recording is really handy if you because students might miss a lecture, or if you've got a student who has an accessibility requirement. as it's just so great in terms of what it can do. So if you hit record to do that, you would go on Tools, hit record. It takes about 2 to 3 minutes to initialize. So you'll see a button come up here right beside invite, which will indicate that it's now being recorded. So if you are planning to record your class, set it up maybe 2 to 3 minutes before you're going to start. Okay. Also, one quick thing as well, a lot of times students will review the video because they maybe didn't catch or understand. So it's just reinforcing learning. And because things are right now challenging because of COVID, it's helpful for them to be able to access. Maybe they missed a lecture, they can review it and reinforce that learning. And it'll help save you time so you're not having to repeat information over. They can just watch the video. So all your videos will be stored in your media gallery. So if you go back to your Canvas course and you go back to your media gallery section, you'll be able to see all of your videos that you have recorded. So the videos will be stored here by default. This is where they will land. For yourself, you'll be able to see here, these are all the videos, and keep in mind your students will be able to see this by default. So as soon as the video is finished rendering, you hit stop the recording, this is where it will land. So if you wanted to, let's say, okay, you've recorded it, but you don't necessarily want them to have access to it, you would simply click on the video, find the actions button here, click publish, click private, and then save the video, hit OK, and then your video will automatically move to the media gallery where if you wanted to share it further out in Canvas, you'll be able to do so. All right, so that's pretty straightforward in terms of how to just move it over, but if you want your students to be able to just view the video right away, you don't have to do any additional steps further. All right, so here we're getting to the last feature, which is really a place where you can engage your students using the breakout rooms. So the breakout rooms is an advanced feature within this platform that you'll have access to. To activate your breakout room, you would click on Tools, hit Breakout. Under Auto Assign, you'll see a list of all your students that are available. So you have choice here because let's say you can create up to 30 breakout rooms. So if you've got those large classes, you can create larger room numbers. But let's say you want to just auto assign them and you want them all to be evenly distributed to the number of rooms that you've created. You can click this auto button by default and then they'll be placed in the room here in one of these rooms. And they'll be able to access the breakout room. However, if you've got students in groups already predefined, that let's say you've set up your groups, you can manually move the students. So you would click on their name once it appears here and just drag them to the specific room. You only need to set this up one time. So like your first class that you have, you're going to want to set this up. It takes maybe 10 or 15 minutes if you've got the very large class. If your class is not too large, it's going to be fairly quickly to set this up. So once you set this up, the very first time your students have to be in the Kaltura Virtual Classroom in order to be assigned to a breakout room. So once they're in there and you can see them, you can manually then move them over, do it one time, and then the next class that you have, it's gonna remember in which breakout room they are in. So I talked a little bit earlier as well. Some of you have office hours. So let's say you want to conduct office hours. What you can do is launch your breakout room. If you're co-facilitating and you want to, maybe you've got 2 teachers in there or 3 teachers, you pick your room that you want to be in. Your instructors pick their room. Just create only the number of rooms that you need. And as your students arrive, maybe you've got a schedule of times. Actually, I would create a schedule with a specific time that they're supposed to be in there. You'll see them come in here in the auto assign, or just under the auto assign. Then you can move them to your specific room. It'll be a private meeting within that breakout room that you can then discuss the particulars of what the office hour is that you, or address the specific question with privately in that room. So that's a way that you can use breakout rooms in terms of being able to, if you've got multiple rooms, they will be able to privately meet with the students. The other students, as they are arriving in your class, they will be in the main meeting room. So they won't be able to see you. You will just maybe reinforce when before your class or when you're going to have your office hours, just remind them that they'll arrive in the main meeting room, and when you will move them over manually. So they don't have to do anything. They just have to wait there until you move them over. So that's sort of how breakout room works. The key thing and the great thing is with the breakouts, you can have up to 30, as I mentioned, but the students within the breakouts, they automatically become moderators. So they're able to have access to the same functionality. If they need to upload files, they can access the whiteboard. It's meant by design for them to be engaging with one another as they work collaboratively on the particular assignment that they're working on. So keep that in mind with breakouts. It's really an engaging feature, and that you can have access at any time to launch the breakout for them, and that it will remember from class to class. Once you've set them up, if you have that auto assign off, it will remember which room they were in. All right, you can also set timers as well. I just wanted to let you know if you need to set a timer. Let's say you set 40 minutes or 30 minutes. You hit breakout. What will happen is you'll see a timer there come up, and your students will also see a timer. So there's no need to remind them. If you've got a predefined amount of time, maybe they've got 20 minutes, you can, to work on the assignments in the breakout, it's going to count down. So you don't have to go from room to remind them. They can see the time there. Once breakouts are launched, you're going to hit Manage Breakout, and this is where you can move to the different rooms. Students will also have a call option. So if they need to call you to a specific room, it says Call Instructor. If they hit that, it will send you a notification where it'll say, do you want to join this room? You can join that room. And it will take you right into that room where the student has called you if they have a question. So again, a great feature for engaging with your students and having them, work collaboratively. I recommend using this if you can and feel comfortable throughout your class and every class if possible, just to get them talking to each other, building on what they're learning. Again, it's another way that's going to engage them long term, because they're just like your classroom. Maybe you would have them working in small groups. They can do that here as well, using the breakout room feature. Okay, so finally, we're here now at the end. Thanks for listening to me. I hope that you got a lot out of this. And the final piece that I will say is that if you run into any issues or you want more information, you can contact the Teaching and Learning at OntarioTechU.ca. That email address is monitored by the members of the Teaching and Learning Center. So there's someone watching that. Most of the time, your email will be filtered to me, and I can help troubleshoot. But by default, use the Teaching and Learning at OntarioTechU.ca to help you for all of your inquiries. For students, they can use the service desk. There is going to be a team of students that can support them for their needs. So if your students are having any tech issues or anything like that, just refer them to the service desk. Well, again, thank you everyone for watching this video, and I hope your first class goes well, and we will be here to support you as much as possible.